What would God not do for you? What would God not do for you?
Yay. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna move more to the middle. Charles, you ready with me? Awesome. Hi there. You know, it kind of fits with my little saying that never centered, always returning to center, right? That's part of my desire and intention. Well, this week I want to start off with a poem. And the poem is from one of my favorite poets, who's a Sufi poet, Hafiz. Excuse me. And the poem is called "The Subject Tonight is Love." The subject tonight is love, and for tomorrow night as well. As a matter of fact, I know of no better topic for us to discuss until we die. Until we all die. So, the question comes to me then, what is love? And I think it's a very important and powerful question to ask. And I think it's an important and powerful question to ask because we've seen a lot of things in the media, in the world today, that don't look like love to me. Maybe they look like love to you, but they don't to me. And I think that we are seeing things that are not necessarily an absence of love, but as the Course in Miracles would say, a cry for love. And so when we see and experience things in the world that seem really harsh and hard and tragic in our world, I think one of the most important things that we can do from a spiritual perspective is to turn our energy, our awareness to love. It's not an easy thing to do sometimes, is it? It's not an easy thing to do. We're so easily caught up in reacting to those experiences that are harsh and hard for us. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 16, it says, "And we have known and believed the love that God has for us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him." And then Charles Fillmore talks about the faculty of love. The faculty of love is the unifying principle in consciousness. It connects our forces with that on which we center our attention. When our attention is focused on spirit, these faculties become spiritualized. When we elevate love, Levi, to the plane of spirit, John, these are metaphysical significance. When we focus and elevate our love in the plane of spirit, it draws to us all that the soul requires. When it is kept on the lower plane of feeling, emotion, often it leads to selfishness, to indulgence, and even to violence. So, last night we had a wonderful movie. How many were there last night? Wonderful movie. And one of the scenes in the movie really always gets me. And it's a young man has been working really hard as a cellist and had a wonderful opportunity to play in the Tokyo Symphony. And this was just a beautiful, starts off with a beautiful symphony, and he's playing the cello. And after the concert, and there was very few people there in the concert, and after the concert, the owner of the symphony comes in and basically says that the orchestra is dissolved. And he's out of a job. And not only out of a job, his dream in many ways his bubble has been burst, you might say. His dream has been shattered in many ways. So he's unsure about what to do, but he winds up moving back to his hometown where he has a house that his mother had left him, he and his wife. And so he's looking for work, and he just happens to see an ad on the paper, and it says, it's an agency, and the thing on the ad is Departures, which is the name of the movie. And so he assumes that it's a travel agency. And he's going to the NK agency. And he goes to the agency, and it seems a little odd for a travel agency when he goes in. He's not sure exactly what this is. And so he's going and talking to the owner of the agency, and he's in the interview, and the owner of the agency says, "Well, will you work hard?" And he says, "Oh yes, I work hard." And he says, "Okay, you're hired." And he says, "Well, what will I be doing, you know? And what about salary?" And the guy gives him really this wonderful, enormous salary. And he's going, "What? I mean, you know, 10 times what he thought he was going to be making." And so he says, "What kind of work is this?" He says, "I mean, are we helping people to go to different?" He says, "Go to different places?" And he says, "Well, yeah, basically that's what we're doing." Come to find out, what they do is they prepare people for burial. And so he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was an error. Instead of it shouldn't say Departures, it should say The Departed." And he says, "Well, what's the NK agency?" Well, the word NK it's an acronym for a word in Japanese that basically means coffining, preparing them for being in the coffin. And so, you know, it was kind of a humorous twist on something that we sometimes take very seriously in our lives and world. And we tend to take death very seriously in this country. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Well, you know, and I don't want to make light of something that we often take very seriously, but I want to suggest that we probably take that a lot more seriously than we need to. But something that we really ought to take very seriously is how we act toward each other and how we react toward each other. And violence is something that really is something that we need to look at, not only out here in the world, but I've talked about in different times that we're all so amazingly connected. We need to be honest and really know that there's something within us on a subconscious level that is conditioned, if you want to call it that, or prone in some ways to react to things in ways that are not healthy for us, but also not healthy for others around us as well. When we come from a place that is from a lower energy and a lower vibration, it's easy to fall into those patterns. And we all have the potential for that within us. And so part of our work, I think, is not so much to try to hide from or deny that, but to recognize that human beings have this nature that is not unusually triggered into something that creates tragedy. And our work, I believe, is to help move ourselves and move the planet into a different level of awareness and a different level of energy. Well, we can't do that if we're still in the same level of energy. So this last week we worked a lot in our healing class and talked about, and you guys have heard me talk about, that there are energies that we are a part of, that are part of us, that are life enhancing, and there are energies that are life depleting. And it is when we see and experience things that feel like they are rending at our hearts, it's very easy to fall into the same kind of energy and vibration and think, well, we've got to go out and take care of that. You know, we got to get them. But we're working off the same kind of energy if we do that, aren't we? If we're using the same kind of energy, and Einstein said it this way, he said, you know, you can't solve a problem on the same level of energy and consciousness and thinking, I'm paraphrasing here, that created the problem in the first place. And so we cannot fight hatred with more hatred. We cannot fight. Martin Luther King Jr. said it very clearly. You cannot overcome hate with hate. Only love can do that. Only love can do that. So how can we then show up in our experiences, in our life, in our world, in a way that helps to bring not only ourselves, but to bring humankind more into an awareness and an energy of the possibilities of love? Well, for me, one of the things that's valuable to kind of get is that we have a tendency to think about love as, romantic love, that, and we also have a tendency to think it's kind of a tit for tat kind of thing. Well, if you love me, I'll love you. And if you don't love me, I'm not going to love you. Well, that's really very limited in terms of understanding what really the power and the energy of love is, because love in and of itself is probably the primary aspect or characteristic of the divine. And it exists whether we are aware or conscious of it or not. And it is in us whether we are aware or conscious of it or not. Love always exists. It always is. It always has been. It always will be. It's not a matter of whether we have love or not. We are absolutely bathed, immersed, made up of the energy, the power, the vibration of love. That's the essence of who and what we are. But we can also be very unaware of that. We can be unaware, and we can be in an energy of thinking that we have to somehow get love. And if we're in the energy of trying to get love, we are immediately placing ourselves, because we are creative beings, we're placing ourselves in a sense in a hypnotic state that convinces us that we don't have love. And it's just a hypnotic state. There's a wonderful, powerful book out by Richard Bach. You've heard me mention it before, called Hypnotizing Maria. You guys may be familiar with Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, an amazing, wonderful spiritual work. He also wrote the amazing book called Illusions, and if you've not read that one, I highly recommend that. But this is one that actually Miss Ruth introduced me to that just blew me away. And in Hypnotizing Maria, one of the scenes in the story is there's a hypnotist on stage, and he's hypnotized the author into believing that he's inside of a concrete room. And all he sees is a concrete room, and as he's in there, he walks in the door, and the door closes behind him into this concrete room, and all of a sudden the door disappears. And he's just in this concrete room, and he has no clue how he's going to get out of this. He has no clue how he's going to get out of this concrete room. And he's actually able to hear the hypnotist talking, but he's not aware of the audience out there. He's not aware of anything else, but he's in this concrete room. And for him, it's absolutely real. And I got an awareness and an image that that's kind of how we are sometimes when we think we're not in the presence of love. We think we're in this concrete room, and there's nothing there but concrete. Seems very barren. No furniture, We're in a cell, in a prison. And we're in the prison of our own creation, of our own minds. Because we accepted and bought this idea that somehow we can be outside of the energy, the consciousness of love. And when we think that, then we do things to try to get back into that feeling or that experience of love, and sometimes we're misguided in doing things to try and get something that already is, that already exists. And those can wind up being what Marshall Rosenberg calls catastrophic strategies for meeting our needs. We've seen examples of some pretty catastrophic strategies for meeting needs. Love exists even when we are not aware of it. There's never a time when we are not in and at and of the presence of love. It is a spiritual aspect of the divine and always present, always available to us regardless of our awareness or experience of it. And so our work is not like trying to get love, it's trying to simply wake up to the consciousness of love. It's like a radio wave. We are currently surrounded at the moment with the energy and vibration of radio waves. Do you realize that? You got radio waves going through you right now. We all do. And there's numerous different stations, numerous different channels, and we have the ability to choose which one we're going to tune into. We tune our minds into frequencies that oftentimes appear lacking, limited, fearful. And when we do, we try to do things to try and move out of that space, and we use more energies of fear, lack, limitation to try and do that. You see? And so part of our work is to not necessarily try to get rid of the other channels. That's kind of fruitless, really. The idea is to move into where we want to be and move into an awareness of the channels, the energy, the vibration that really tunes us into the divine in our lives. So Scott Peck had a powerful definition for love that really has spoken to me over the years. He said that love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. I like that definition. It's the willingness to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. And so one of the most significant things we can do to really learn and experience more of the presence of love in our lives is to really love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, we have a lot of times been taught about, we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves, but do we really love ourselves? Sometimes we have more trouble loving ourselves than we do loving our neighbors. Sometimes, of course, we do the opposite. We love ourselves and we love humankind, but we don't like the people. Humankind would be great if we could just get rid of some of these people. But one of the most significant things we can do to heal not only our planet is to really learn that opportunity to heal what's going on in us and to move into a place of love of ourselves and with ourselves and for ourselves. So one of the things that we talked about in our classes last week, I introduced a number of different ways for us to move into the energy of healing. And on some level, all of them had to do with tapping into the energy of love. Tapping into the energy of love and tapping into the energy of life in and of itself. And it really has to do with a recognition that we are already whole. We're already in a place of wholeness on a spiritual level, but we haven't really tuned into all of the aspects of that, and part of our work is not to try and create something new, but to get what's in the way out of the way of truly feeling and knowing our true nature. And so by giving love to ourselves, we're allowing the expression of God as love through us, for ourselves. In a very real sense, we're allowing God to love us by loving ourselves. We're allowing the divine to love us by loving ourselves. The truth of the matter is, the divine already loves us, but we have what I call yeah buts in the way. You know what about our yeah buts? We have some pretty big yeah buts sometimes, right? And you know what yeah buts do? They block our awareness of our true nature. They block our awareness of who we are. That's that little mind chatter that says, well, I'm not this and I'm not that, I'm too much this, I'm too much that. I'm not enough this, I'm not enough that. And if we listen to those little voices, it's pretty easy for us to deny the essence of who and what we are. And so for now, and rely on the love of God that God has for us. In 1 John 4:16, God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him, her. So let's talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about what we oftentimes mistake for love. Let's talk about things that we think oftentimes are love. One of the things that we have a tendency to think that the Course in Miracles basically says there's only two real emotions, love and fear. And I really do believe there's truth in that. Gandhi, recently I came across a Gandhi quote that I'd forgotten about, but he said, "We think that the enemy is hate, but really the enemy is fear." The enemy is fear. And if we tune into and buy into the energy of fear, we're trying to fight fear with fear. You've heard that saying, you can't fight, fighting fire with fire. Well, that doesn't work with fear. It doesn't work with fear. The more fear you create about the fear that you see out here in the world, you're just simply feeding more of the energy of fear. And so one of the most valuable things for us to do is recognize when we're in that state and shift our awareness back into what we can accept and what we can then move into in terms of appreciation and value and worth and love. And so when I think about the idea of the opposite of love being fear, one of the things that comes to me also is that we have a tendency to think that love is need. That if I need something or someone, then I really love it. We often try to experience love by trying to get love out here. But love is always a giving. It's never a getting. There's nothing to get. If you want to experience more love, you don't experience more of my love by trying to get it. You follow what I'm saying? We've all been guilty of that. I would almost bet there's not a one here that hasn't tried to get love somehow in some time in some way in your life. You know how you try to get love. We're conscious of it sometimes we're not conscious of it. Sometimes we act in ways to try and get love, don't we? So what are your strategies for trying to get your needs met? We all have them. Sometimes they work somewhat. Sometimes they're pretty catastrophic. One of the things that we oftentimes confuse for love is codependence. Codependents actually are those who, when they die, someone else's life flashes before their eyes. That's pretty funny, isn't it? So here's some examples. Some examples of what we confuse for love. If you love me, I'll love you. That's called bargaining. Getting the best deal, right? We're going to get the best deal, bargaining. If you love me, I'll love you, but only to the extent that you love me. Know that one? Another one is manipulation. I'll love you if you do this for me. If you'll be this way for me, then I'll love you. And I'll love you if you give me what I want. I'll love you if you are the way I want you to be. Sound familiar? And then there's controlling as love. Again, that's related to manipulation also. Controlling is, either be correct or I disconnect. Another form that we tend to think is love is people pleasing. If I do something to make you happy, you'll love me. And why don't you love me? Because I did things to make you happy. And why don't you love me the way I want you to love me? And then there's rescuing as love. I'll take care of your problems, and then you'll be happy and you'll love me for it. See, codependents don't have relationships. They take hostages. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. And so part of our work is to learn to, in a real sense, we get a lot of these early on in life, and it's, you know, we've been taught and programmed in many ways, and it's not to blame our teachers. They did the best that they knew. These are the lessons that they learned and grew up with. And so we're not here to try and lay blame on anyone, but we do need to, in a very real sense, reparent ourselves. We must receive love. In order to receive love, you must tune your energy into where you can share and give love. Receiving love is actually giving love to yourself, and you don't receive love until you're willing to do that and also willing to give it to others as well. Learning to love really begins when we were children, and we were taught by our parents, by our siblings, by our teachers. However, if they were not taught healthy love, then we're going to be taught the kind of love that doesn't really work and doesn't serve. And we all, to some extent, got pieces of that. Well, even if my parents, I'll be honest with you, my parents were very, very loving people. They were just wonderful, loving people. And yet, the thing is, when we're little, if we don't receive the love the way we think we want it or we think we need it, we don't see that as being loved, but they didn't know how to love us, the way we wanted. We simply see that as we're not lovable. And we take on this energy and this belief system that says, I'm not lovable. If we're not, my parents were wonderfully loving, but they loved me the way that they knew how. And sometimes it wasn't the way that I thought I should be loved. Know what I'm talking about? This especially became true when I was a teenager, of course, but even before then, because I didn't get the pony when I wanted it, they didn't love me. Sound familiar? Now, you had your own little, for you it might not have been a pony, maybe it was a race car, or maybe it was a certain doll, or I wanted this little robot I remember when I was a kid. Remember those robots? They were about $300, and I think that's what both my parents made in a month. But I sensed and felt, an energy. I didn't consciously say, oh, well, therefore they don't love me. But I did feel that. And I created this belief system in there of feeling unloved. It wasn't their fault. They gave me wonderful gifts. Not only physical, but gifts of love. They loved me how they knew how and to the best of their ability. And I believe that's true for all parents on some level. Even those that are really, really seriously wounded or hurt themselves, I think they do the best that they can to know how. So, we can have the most loving parents in the world, but if they don't love us in the way that we thought we were supposed to be loved, then we still experience that in some ways as not being loved. So, what I've found is that we have to really be willing to reparent ourselves. We have to be willing to love ourselves. We have to be willing to take the time and energy to love that little inner child within us. I do a lot of work with people's inner child and helping them to reconnect with that little child that still exists within every one of us. And loving that child in ways that we probably didn't experience when we were growing up, but we can give that love to ourselves. In this way, in 1 John 4:17, in this way love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. Because in this world, we are like him. And in John 4:18, he says, there is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. And the one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. To me, I translate that as we love because that is what we are created of. The divine is love. And we are expressions of that divine. We are created in the image and after the likeness of love, and there's really never any need to try and get more of it. There's only an intent to be more of it. How can I be more of that love, express more of that in my life, even in the circumstances that I see out here? How can I move into a place where I'm not reacting to catastrophic strategies for people trying to get their needs met? How can I really be an instrument of God's love, of God's peace? Well, in John 4:20, it goes on to say, if anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he's a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And he has given us this commandment: whoever loves God must also love his brother. So the opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. The Course in Miracles tells us that God is all-encompassing. The Bible tells us, really, he's the Alpha and the Omega, which means the beginning and the end, and everything in between. There really is only one presence and one power in this universe. And our practice, our spiritual practice, is to remind ourselves in all these times and all these circumstances, whatever seems to be going on in our life and world, whether it be our individual life where we experience difficulties and challenges, if we will just really begin to recognize that everyone that we seem to have an issue with, everyone that seems to push our buttons, anybody know have any of those? Yeah. They are simply crying out for knowing who they truly are. Who they truly are is love. And we forget it, and we get opportunities to be reminded that that's who we truly are. That's what we truly are. You are an expression of divine love. And yes, those who act in tragic ways and are suffering from those tragic things also are divine love. So the Course can be summed up very simply, it says, in this way: nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exist. There really is only one presence and one power, and that presence and power is love. And we're seeing a cry for love in our world. And our work is to really pay attention to that cry for love and know that there really is no absence of it. Ultimately, there is no absence of love. Teilhard de Chardin says, the day will come when, after harnessing space, the winds, the tide, and gravitation, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we shall have discovered fire. Buddha says, the way is not in the sky. The way is in the heart. So this week, what I invite you to do is, you have a couple of ways you can work with this, I think, that really can be valuable. If you find that you do like I do sometimes and just simply turn off the TV or the internet or whatever and just turn within, that's a valuable way of dealing with it also. Turning within so you can reconnect to that place of love within yourself. And then, when you're able to do that, go back to your TV, go back to your internet, and be the presence of love. Send love to each and every one that you see, feels, and needs, and is crying out for that, in whatever way that you may see that. And if you feel moved to take other action, listen to that heart within you. And step out there knowing that love is leading you to take whatever action you feel is from the heart, and for the heart, and of the heart, and by the heart. There's only one presence and one power in this universe, in this place, and in our lives, and we are experiencing and expressing that love by being that presence, by holding to that awareness, by sending that energy, and by trusting and knowing that it makes a difference. It does. You will see it, you will feel it, and we are, by doing that, as Jesus said, we are the light of the world. And let's move into our meditation time. So I invite you to move into that comfortable, still place within yourself. And I invite you to become aware of your breath. And as you breathe in to a 6 count. And as you breathe out to a 6 count. And just breathe at your own pace, but silently count to yourself 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as you breathe in and out, counting 6 counts, focus your attention now on your physical heart. There's a power, an awareness, an intelligence in the physical heart. Focus your awareness on that physical heart and breathe into that space. Breathe into that place. And as you breathe into your physical heart, bring your awareness into something that you feel genuine appreciation for. A thing of beauty perhaps, or nature, or a smiling baby, or something that really speaks to your heart that you really appreciate. Let yourself feel that energy of appreciation. And as you feel that energy of appreciation, open your awareness to allow the feeling and the energy of love to permeate your physical heart. Feel what that feels like. To just allow love to be there, to flow through you. And as you breathe in and out, allowing your awareness to center in your heart space, feel it radiating out from within you, from the very heart of the universe, into your heart, and out through your heart to those around you. Just be open to allowing that energy of love to connect with the energies of those around you and those behind you and in front of you. Let it expand even more. Letting it expand to fill this whole sanctuary. Letting that energy of love expand all the way out into the surrounding community here. In your heart and mind, just imagine and see people going, wow, what is that? And feeling that energy of love. Feeling the shift happening for them from whatever lower energy or vibration might be there. And feel it expanding outward and surrounding and filling all of Austin, Texas, and Travis County, and moving and shifting from the energies of fear and need and doubt and the strategies to meet those needs for love. See and feel each one experiencing the peace that that love brings. See it expanding out and filling and surrounding our country and working in and through all of those in our country. And then see it expanding even more and out into our world. Breathing in through the heart space, allowing the heart of the universe to radiate through our human hearts as love, as healing light, as peace and power. And see each human heart, each heart of every animal, each creature, radiating and flowing and beating with the energies of love. Beating in the wonderful vibration of love. And see healing unfolding for all of the wounds, the hurts, the fears, the doubts, being transformed, uplifted. And let a feeling of gratitude come in your heart for the wonderful transformation that's happening through these blessings, through sending forth this energy, through trusting and knowing that each heart has the presence of the divine in it and is transforming and lifting into another way. A way of peace, a way of love, a way of health and wholeness, of light. And just let a feeling of gratitude now come into your heart, knowing that a healing is taking place in our planet. Take another nice deep breath. Staying in that energy of the heart, take another deep breath, and when you're ready, return to this time and place, this room, this sanctuary. giving thanks that a blessing has emanated from you, through you, into this room, this world, and know there's only one presence, and that presence is love. Take another nice deep breath. Open your eyes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, blessed Spirit. And so it is. Amen.